Joining us this afternoon is Tara L. Samples. She is a former candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, and she is a councilwoman joining us now to discuss many things, including the campaign of Senator Nina Turner for Congress. Tara, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Benjamin. I appreciate it.
The pleasure is ours. Could you tell us about, before we get to Senator Turner's campaign, tell us about your campaign and the various things that you're working on?
Well, yes, currently I am a sitting council member here in the city of Akron. I represent Ward 5. We call the Mighty Ward 5 here in Akron, Ohio. My ward is the biggest ward in the city of Akron. I represent probably 96% of the African American community. We are working on some great projects here in the city of Akron. Right now, we just passed legislation allowing individuals to come into a towing district that was predominantly held by men. So we were able to get a woman into the district. So that was a big thing for us here in the city of Akron because it's a district that has been held down by certain companies for over 50 years. So that was a big thing for us. We're also working on some gun legislation here as well and putting some ring cameras in the community to help combat some of the gun violence that we are seeing here in the city of Akron. We've had 15 homicides since the beginning of the year.
And I'm looking at, like, I followed you for some time on social media, and I've seen your progressive activism and your passion for the people. Could you speak about that, particularly as it pertains to your work as a council member?
Oh, absolutely. I just believe that we are supposed to be in these spaces and places for one particular reason, and that is for the people. I hold true to that. If it isn't about helping people, I don't want any parts of it. And that's just, I think this is what we all should do. I think a lot of us come into this space with that concept in mind, but somewhere along the line, a lot of those individuals lose that focus. And I always remain there in that space. And I've always made a promise to myself that when it is not about the people, it is time for me to move on. And I think we all need to stay there. When you are elected to office, you are elected because of people, and they send you there to represent them. And once you stop feeling like you should represent them, it's time to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. You are a part in working with Senator Nina Turner, who is, I'm a fan of her work and a supporter of her work because of the passion and the fire with which she speaks and the conviction that she carries her life. Tell us about the campaign that's in the election that's coming up on, I believe it's November 2nd.
August the 3rd is the is a primary. So we do have an official special primary election date, which is August 3rd. And then the general will be in November. So we are off and running. I am working on Senator Turner's campaign as political director. She has continued to speak truth to power, not just in the 11th Congressional District, but across the country. And she is a voice that is much needed in Congress to help amplify the voices in the progressive movement that are already there. I think that Nina brings something unique to the congressional race. She is someone who is battle tested. She is well versed on the issues. And she's going to be able to reach across the aisle and have those conversations that I believe a lot of the other ones aren't able to have. And I think that if we're talking about we want to repair the Democratic Party, you have to be willing to allow those progressive voices within that structure. And that's where Senator Turner comes in.
No, absolutely. And it's not only the fire with which she speaks and the conviction, but it's also, dare I say, the sincerity of what she fights for, that pulls me towards her campaign. Could you speak about the endorsement that she recently got from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which is a major endorsement, but also just a sign of the change in this country and moving this country a little bit more towards progressivism?
Absolutely. And the endorsement of AOC was huge, and it is huge for this movement. And it shows that people are ready for change. They are hungry for change. And when you have someone with such a magnetic voice as AOC coming into this race, which she didn't have to, but she sees something there that's going to be very beneficial to Congress and to the progressive movement. And I think because of the fire that Senator Turner brings to the conversation, whether it's for Medicare for All, Fight for 15, the Green New Deal, Representative Cortez understands that Senator Turner is going to be someone that is going to help her in that structure, because make no mistake, the establishment is coming. They are coming. Yeah. And the one thing that we want progressives to understand and know about this race here in the 11th Congressional District is going to change the dynamic for other races across this country. And because we know that, and because we are here on the ground and we're watching the surge, we understand that progressives have to come in and be a voice in a fight in this with us, because they are coming and we understand it. We know it, and it's going to take all of us to get her in this seat.
Let's talk about the establishment that's fighting against her, because as I focused in on that race that's happening there in Ohio, it seems as though there is a very concerted effort from establishment Democrats to push back against Nina Turner. And of course, I think to anyone that would be obvious that that is what they would do. But let's talk about the differences in the two different camps, what Nina is fighting for versus what the establishment is fighting for, from your perspective there in Ohio.
Right. So this is just my opinion. Nina is fighting for the people, and the establishment is fighting to stay in charge. Nina has a love for people. She has a love for community, and she wants to see the things that should come into our communities done the right way. She truly believes in Medicare for all and Fight for 15, versus the establishment. It's about wielding the power. So you have someone who really cares about the people, and then you have another group that's worried about yielding the power. There's a vast difference between the two. And so we're hoping that the voters in the 11th Congressional District see what we see and know what we know, that Senator Turner is the one who is going to continue that fight in this space now and in the future.
Let's talk about Akron. I know where Columbus, Ohio is, and I know the distance from Columbus to Cleveland, a lot of family there. Tell us about the politics of Akron as it pertains to progressivism and your fight as a council member.
We have a little ways to go. I will say that. I will tell you, in 2016, I was the only elected official who endorsed Senator Sanders in Akron. So I was on an island by myself. And it was hard. 2020, there was a little shift, and a lot more came along in that fight. So we do have a ways to go, but we have a lot of progressives. We have a lot of African-American elected officials that are in that space. And we know that we have a ways to go, but we are in it for the long haul. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us more then about your fight as a council member. And because, you know, I've seen your work. I've seen your work, particularly on social media. And while social media to some may not be real life, it is reflective of the divisions that we see across the country, both between conservatives as well as establishment Democrats. So tell us about your individual fight there in Akron as it pertains to fighting on behalf of the people.
Absolutely. I know that when I wake up in the morning, it's always about doing what's right. Always. I go to sleep at night knowing that I've done well. I will continue to fight for a banning of assault weapons. That has been something that's been a plight for me. And as you've seen across the country, what we are facing yet again, I have been a staunch advocate of banning of assault weapons, trigger cranks, and bump stops. And I think there's something that has to be done. We can do universal background checks all we want, but until we get the guns out of the hands of individuals who should not own them, we will continue to have this conversation time and time again. So that is something that I have continued to fight for. I will continue to fight for us to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And as someone who is a teen mom, I always feel the need to fight for our teen parents in that space and making sure that they have a voice in this as well.
Let's talk about we only have a few minutes here, but as it pertains to presidential politics, the broader conversation across the nation, what are the commonalities in Akron as a council member, person who's fighting on behalf of Nina Turner and her campaign, what are the commonalities that you see in Akron that you see across the country? What are Americans and the American people looking for?
In the words of Senator Turner, people want things that are as good as their promise. They want to know that they have people in that space fighting for them. And this is something that's going on across the country. People want Medicare for all. People want to see a $15 minimum wage. People want that. People want good health care and good jobs. And they want to do something about the crime. And that's something that's going on across the country.
Yeah. Tara Samples, Akron City Councilwoman and political director for the Nina Turner campaign for Congress. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is ours.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.